gotta say, I had never heard the story of Charlie Walker before this film, and it's really quite the interesting one. Were you familiar of Charlie Walker's story before signing on for the project?
I was familiar with the story of the tanker crash. I was familiar with the story of the beach being inundated and the massive cleanup effort. I did not know about Charlie Walker in that context. I had heard about him because at the time I was living in San Francisco. I guess I had moved to San Francisco in '77, so it was just after that event had occurred. But Charlie Walker was active in various communities, and Charlie Walker's he's a big presence. So I definitely heard the name, but until just before I started doing the film, I had never met him, and I really did not know, and was in many ways not even prepared for that story.
So once this film did come across your table, did you decide to do a deep dive into his story, or did you just kind of go with what the material you were given?
No, I never just go with the material. I always maybe it's because I want to feel like I've done justice to someone's story. The writers do a wonderful job, but of course they're limited by the medium. And as an actor, you get an opportunity to go as far as you want. And even though you're limited by the text, that doesn't limit your imagination and all of the things you can gain by learning about the times. So I always do a lot of research, and in doing it, I felt it was a really rich story that they had managed to retain certain questions and certain ambivalences about everything, about the time, about Charlie Walker, about his relationship to the various communities he came into contact with. And I think it's a wonderful question. And I think some of the best films I know pose just really wonderful questions and don't answer them, so that an audience is left to kind of think about it and figure it out for themselves. We don't trust answers, especially these days. So it feels like anything you can gain for yourself is vital.
I couldn't agree more. I think this film does a great job of really enticing audience interest into looking into the story further themselves, rather than just relying on this film for the whole story.
Right.
So what would you then say was the biggest draw for you to be a part of this project?
I would say Charlie Walker, the man, the story of an individual crazy enough to think that he could do what he did, strong enough to do what he did, perhaps human enough to succumb to certain temptations, and man enough to live inside the decisions he made.
So your role in this film, I will say I was kind of surprised that you were more of a supporting player than we generally see you. And so I'm curious, was there extra material that we haven't seen of your part in the film, or is it pretty much all there?
No, everything we shot is there. I have a whole film about Willie, but yeah, no one was interested. No, I think Willie appealed to me in part because he's not like me. I chafe whenever anyone says, "Who do you think you are?" or "What are you doing here?" But that's not Willie. Willie learned and habituated to a position and he put a certain limitation on his own imagination. He definitely put a limitation on his behavior, and he put a limitation on what other people who looked like him should be able to do. So his admiration for Charlie was, in part, I think, the kind of admiration you have for someone who goes into a cage with lions and a whip. What are you doing? That's crazy. But since you seem to be doing it, that's awesome. And I think there were a lot of people a lot of his contemporaries who looked at Charlie Walker, no matter, regardless of their skin color or where they were in the game, and thought, this man is unusual enough to perhaps be crazy, but he's also wildly effective. And what is the phrase? Play fool to catch wise. So sometimes someone who looks as if they have no idea what they're doing and they're just operating in a way that is just not coherent may have a much better idea than you think, and they're utilizing that confusion that you feel to gain their advantage.
So did you find that you had the same level of admiration for your co-star Mike Colter as Willie would have for Charlie Walker?
Yes, even more so, because I would like to think that I am Mike Colter, and I kind of feel the same way about certain aspects of living inside yourself and your truth and presenting yourself as fully and freely as you can. Mike is a force of nature. Mike is a big, strong, beautiful Black man who has no apology. It's just, this is what you got. So I think, and he's also just such a wonderful actor. And I think that to play someone like a Charlie Walker, to play a force of nature, obviously no one is simply that. So he has the skill necessary to plumb those depths and give you glimpses of things. Now, Charlie is he's not a picture of vulnerability. So you have to be careful the way you do it. But I think Mike has the skills and pulled it off beautifully.
I couldn't agree more. I think Mike did a great job as Charlie, as you just say. I am curious though. I mean, you both have that Marvel history with each other in the Marvel world, and so I'm curious. Did you get the chance to talk about that with him at all while you were working on set?
Not really, because some of that, well, definitely my Marvel history occurred, just kind of recently. At least my Marvel history on screen. But no, this was a reasonably budgeted film. So we had to make use of pretty much every minute we had, and even some of our downtime had to be concerned with getting shots and figuring out how to pull this or that off. We were working with a director who was very, very creative, and I think did some amazing things with the kind of budget that you sometimes get for craft services. But look at the result, and I think it's proof that work expands to fit the time allotted. Sometimes having a lot of money means misspending a lot of money, and when it really matters, especially if the project matters to you, count every dollar and put it on the film. Don't squander. So I feel proud of the fact that they were able to make the film. I feel, I suppose, a little bit surprised and gratified by the fact that it's being distributed.
It's pretty amazing what Patrick did with the reasonable budget he was given. I will agree. For my final question before I go, I'm a big Mike Flanagan fan, so I am curious if you could give me a little insight into what it's been like reuniting with him for Fall of the House of Usher.
Bliss. And I mean, I don't exactly know if it's my place to say this, but he's even better than he was when we did Dr. Sleep. He is he's what I love about being in this business and being an artist. He's constantly seeking. He's constantly going. He's never, he doesn't finish. He's, you know, anything you could do richer, deeper, fuller, and better. And I think that's the way he operates. So it's just a joy. And it's the kind of joy that you know is real, because I'm not the only one who thinks so. Everyone, and I'm talking about crew people, everyone on that project has that the same sense of this individual. He is real deal.
Well, I look forward to hearing more details about that as they come, and I look forward to spreading the word about this movie. Thank you, Carl, so much for taking the time to chat. I really appreciate it.